last couple of hours or something along those lines.
Yeah, there has been some clouds, but no actual rain.
No, the green part is rain. This is radar returns.
Oh, okay, but we haven't had, I don't think we had any. The light green like that can be clouds with moisture in them, but no actual rain.
Or Virgo.
Yeah, or Virgo, exactly.
One other interesting feature is it'll project how storms are expected to move.
You're not gonna see it
Yeah,
on
there's
this.
no storms here.
Here, let me do something for you, let's see if I can find it.
Let's try to maybe a little.
Yeah, go to Continental and see if you can find a thunderstorm. Watch, this will be the only day in the last month that hasn't had any thunderstorms in the United States. Right? And you know that you get these things that you hear, the alerts on News 12 or the radio station will say, okay, Fairfield County, you got a 40% chance of thunderstorm. And that, for the next 6 hours, and that's really meaningless, because that's basically a guess, and you don't know where those cells are gonna be. So the cell can pass right over you, or the cell can go right by you. Big difference in terms of taking down antennas, in terms of possible damage, etc. So when you go,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So when you go to one of these sites, you can actually see what's happened over the past hour or 2 hours, and see the actual movement of the storm, which means that you can get an idea where's it going.
So yeah, you can basically see its movement over the past couple of hours and kind of project where it will move, and this particular site will actually do that for you as well. There's an option here to display storm tracks. So those cones represent areas of probability where over the next, I think 3 hours, I think each of these sections is 1 hour, that particular cell is expected to move. So that's.
So look at that one, there's a cell, the red is a cell, storm cell, and they're projecting it's gonna move, really big. But they're projecting that cell is gonna move in that area. So if I'm over here, I'm in pretty good shape. Now, it could change direction, but it's fairly unlikely.
So the interesting thing about that is, if you watch how that yellow turns into red in between those two, can you point at that cell again, John? That cell and the one just up to the upper right of it?
Yeah.
If you were just looking at that without projection, you would think that if you were in between those, you'd probably get smacked. But looking at projection, you can be safe that it's, or assume pretty much that it's not gonna happen.
You'll probably get rain, but
Rain,
you're not
right.
gonna get violent winds, you're not gonna get lightning, things like that. It's interesting to watch here in Stanford, for some reason, and I have no idea why, I've never been able to get any word out of the Weather Service. Very often, thunderstorm cells actually split, or lines split as they approach Stanford and they go around Stanford. So you'll see the eastern edge of Greenwich getting clobbered. Even old Greenwich getting clobbered. You'll see Darien and Norwalk getting clobbered, and Stanford will just have heavy rain. If you watch these things, you can see there'll be this big blob of red, and all of a sudden it goes like that. So where you are, for example, if you're out in field day, or you're out setting up an antenna, or you're out on the water, seeing where these things are moving can be very important to you. I'm out in a field. If I see this thing coming at me, I want to get the hell out of there. If I see the thing moving to the west, I want to be going east. That kind of thing can be very valuable to you.
Another cool thing here is this will actually have forecast data as well. So there's another section here that allows you to display forecasted temperature, precipitation, and so on. So let's say you want to see how much rain is expected over the next 6 hours. And this will show, obviously there's a legend here. The green area expects between 1/10 of an inch and 3/10 of an inch, and so on. And then you can move this forward. This is within the next hour, and then 2 hours, 3 hours, and so on.
Yes.
So you can see what the projected rainfall is in different parts of the country. Similarly, this is one that I look at pretty often, is chance of precipitation. So what likelihood there is for there to be rain. 50% is green, and green is between 50 and 70%. So there's expected to be quite a bit of rain in this area, and so on and so forth. And you can see that in our area here, over the next, I guess this is immediate future, so by Saturday, they're not really expecting any rains, between 10 and 20%. But anyway, the real point of this presentation was that very recently I came across a different, there's another website that is pretty popular, weather.com. This is actually owned by the Weather Channel. And I became aware of a feature that has actually been around for quite a while, but I had not seen it before. They have a very similar moving map where you can see how the weather progressed over the past few hours. I should say animated map, not moving map. And I think that maybe we should go back to North Carolina. So that's basically the exact same thing we were looking at before, and it's information, what happened over the past few hours. But what they have is a visual representation of the projected movement of those cells. So that's kind of cool. It'll actually display the anticipated rain, in a more graphic format, if you will. It's a lot more easy to understand or easy to visualize than Weather Underground is. So that's kind of cool. It's like peeking into the future.
So this is, normally we see radar from the last 3 hours. This is radar for the next 3 hours
Right.
projected.
Right. Another feature that is pretty cool on all of these sites, pretty much all of them have this data available. Now that we're in hurricane season, there's actually a dedicated hurricane section. And right now, I don't think we're dealing with anything major in the Atlantic, or at least not near the US coast, but this will show, actually that's not true.
There is
Yeah.
Leslie.
No, I don't know what this is.
There's one near
I don't know what that one is.
Bermuda.
That's just a depression.
Oh.
But yeah, Leslie's there.
There's Leslie and Michael. And did everybody see what happened, what the National Weather Service did with Kirk? There was a hurricane called Kirk. Actually, it was only a tropical storm. And it was starting to break up, and the National Weather Service put out something that said, Kirk is not expected to live long and prosper. So they do have a sense of humor there every once in a while.
So, one really cool feature with this hurricane center, it'll actually show the projected path over the next few days. So, in this case, for Leslie, this is the projected location over the next 5 days, and the circles get bigger as we move out into the future, because that's the area of uncertainty. So, it could be anywhere within this circle at the 5th day. Obviously, they have a much smaller circle for tomorrow because they can project the movement with much greater accuracy than they can for 5 days out. So this is kind of neat because you can see almost a week out whether it expects to impact Connecticut or any of the areas that we care most about.
They had one of those computer models. If you scroll up, can you click on that for a minute? Computer models. Up here. One of the things that was interesting during Irene is that there are many different computer models.
Oh, yeah.
And to see which ones tend to be more or less accurate. All the different weather services have their computer models, which are based on weather, on the knowledge of weather, what happens in certain weather events. For Irene and a couple of other hurricanes, the most accurate model is one that's done at the University of Pennsylvania by their fluid physics lab. These people know absolutely nothing about weather. They very purposely don't know anything about weather, and they treat it as fluid physics, an experiment in fluid dynamics. And they have oftentimes been more accurate than any of the weather people. It's an interesting turnout. But they're the different models, you can see what they're projecting, what these different models project, and that can help you just try to decide, when you look at these things, to try to figure out what's happening, what you think you might have to do. Yes?
That's mostly it. If you guys have any questions, you can always email me, if you wanna know what the links are for these various sites or specific pages on these sites, feel free to email me,
So for example, during field day, when we were putting up the antennas on Friday, we were watching the storms. We were watching, there were thunderstorms in the air, we were watching them. The only problem was that when some of us said, hey, it's getting close enough, others said, nah. And one or two people, I won't name them, Fred, got a zap from one lightning bolt.
Not quite.
Ooh.
Not quite,
Wow.
but you felt it.
I heard it.
That's where it requires some qualification though, in terms of sequence, I will explain that.
So, remember, you can get lightning as much as 10 miles away from a thunderstorm, so.
Yes, a bolt from the blue.
Does anyone have signed up for mobile EAS alerts? Okay, so I am,
Okay.
and,
Andrew?
No,
I'm trying to read your email address, is it RO?
sorry, I'll write it more legible, it's ROSCA.
You know what it is?
Probably should-
It's
the
dark,
color.
it's dark over there, that's
Yeah.
why you can't see it.
There's another color, is this permanent?
so I'm signed up for EAS alerts, and at the end of July, I was in the car or something, and, my phone goes off, and it sounds like an EAS alert. And there was a severe thunderstorm warning, in the area it wasn't even here, it was somewhere else, and it geolocates your phone and sends you alerts based on that. It was very interesting.
Now, what do you have to be running, your GPS or?
No, it doesn't my tower.
Oh, it doesn't.
So as long as you sign up, and I don't honestly know how I signed up for it, it would just magically happen on my phone because it's the phone I have. But they're deploying it nationally, and it's an early warning for cell phone. Because nobody hears EAS alerts anymore, because no one listens to terrestrial radio. It's an interesting concept that uses cell towers to figure out where you are, and if you're on that, it doesn't actually figure out where you are, it basically blasts the area where the towers would be affected, and if you're on that tower, you get the text message.
I think I've gotten a couple of those, I was wondering how that happened.
There's a couple of test ones.
Oh,
And
okay,
if you have your phone,
okay.
it will go off, if your phone is on vibrate or silent, it will still squeal, and it scared the crap out of me the first time.
So if you're on vibrate or silent, it still makes a noise? So if I'm in the, if I'm at the Metropolitan Opera and.
But everybody will have
Although
it.
the Met, I think the Met has cell killers in their
I can just imagine,
It's an interesting, it's a very interesting concept, and there's another one coming out that's, it's for emergency responders initially, but it's, based on, not on cell towers, but on broadcast towers, and it's a subset of broadcast channels that can put out enhanced, alerts with graphics and whatnot, and that pushes to first responders, for emergency alerts beyond the typical alert. I'll see if I can get some more information or
Yeah,
something.
would you?
It's
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah, I'm a little scared about that idea that it goes off even if you
Yeah.
have your phone on silent. 'Cause I was,
That's why they say turn your cell phones off.
yeah, I guess maybe, yeah. Because I was at federal court in Bridgeport a couple of weeks ago for jury duty, and we were in a voir dire, and somebody's cell phone went off, and I thought the judge was gonna hang the guy. So I could just imagine somebody sitting there, going, but I turned it off. I thought the judge was gonna shoot him. He was gonna just come off the bench and rip the guy's head off. Anyway, I didn't get on the case. No, that's not Code Red, Chris. Code Red is the system that the city uses for emergency alerts, telephone. If you're in the white pages, you're gonna get those calls. If you have cell phones or other phones that you wanna get those calls, you go to the city's website. What is it, Stanford Be Prepared or Be Prepared Stanford? Huh. Yeah, whichever one Chris Munger always says it isn't, it is. You can sign up for these things, And that way you get alerts, for example, if, you know, for evacuations or other emergency kinds of things. It's a wise idea, so. Okay, having done that, Terry?